Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE. Today I want to talk about Grease Pencil in comparison with an app called Mental Canvas. Alright, so we already know Grease Pencil, but why do I need to talk about Mental Canvas? This app is actually really interesting, available on Windows and iOS on the iPad. And we know Grease Pencil, so it exists in Blender in 3D. For example, if we have this default cube, Shift A, Grease Pencil, blank. Now we have Grease Pencil object. You can go to draw mode. Normally I increase the strength 100%, and I can start drawing my stroke, and we can use 3D objects as our canvas. Alright, so this is like the basic idea of Grease Pencil. And Grease Pencil is actually have a lot of features, and sometimes even maybe too much for artists, for 2D artists or for animators. And especially because each of Grease Pencil objects can have its own keyframe and animation timeline. So that's really powerful, right? But why did I mention about Mental Canvas? I'm gonna show you something. We can learn something about Mental Canvas. For example, okay, by default, Mental Canvas is different from Grease Pencil because you can kind of work in the kind of 2D modes because it's like pixel art and you can quickly fill. Grease Pencil can do that as well, but I'm gonna show you a couple of examples. If I start with the tutorial, I'm gonna show you a couple of examples. Here we can see there's a project plane, explore spatial drawing, kind of like a museum mode. I think the one that really makes sense is this museum example. It's gonna open the project using the template. What's really cool about Mental Canvas, you can see first we have this view mode. On the right top here, you can see like a camera, and you can kind of move around and rotate. This is just like inside Blender, but I can take a screenshot, and I can move to the next one and take another screenshot, and I can rotate, take another screenshot, and after I do that, I can actually play back. So in Blender, of course, you can do the same thing. Of course, if you have like a camera and you just keyframe the camera, maybe I should switch to Blender. Same thing. If you work inside a camera and switch inside the camera, and you turn on this auto keyframe, you can so go back to the camera and then enable camera to view, and you start rotating and moving around, and of course this will actually create keyframe, kind of similar to Mental Canvas, right? So you kind of know, but for beginner animators maybe, or beginner 3D artists, or even like 2D artists using Blender for the first time, the idea of a camera might be a little bit surprising, because you work basically in 3D. Let's come back to this. Okay, the nice thing about Mental Canvas also, you can now switch to the draw mode, and when you are inside the draw mode, you can see here I can switch between different wall, and let me move this. I can switch to this mode. Okay, there's this canvas that I can use. Now I can start drawing. I can pick a brush, and there's a canvas, and you kind of draw inside the canvas, and you can erase very quickly. But the nice thing about this is that you can switch to the different wall easily. So you can draw on this wall, and you can switch to the another wall, and you can do like a quick graffiti. You can switch to the front wall. I think if Blender Grease Pencil can quickly save like canvas and orientations, it's gonna be a lot more fun to do. Like, okay, let's try create a new scenes. This is still using mental canvas, and I'm gonna show you the template. You can see here, blank template. There's the foreground, midground, background template. The room template is the one that's I really like. There's also this panorama and the cube template. The room template is actually really interesting. Let's create. So by default, we have this back, left, floor, ceiling. This is the back wall. So I'm just gonna draw just a quick doodle, like spider. I can go to the left wall. I can draw quick door, floor. I can draw like a bear, something, and a ceiling. Okay, ceiling. I don't know, just kind of like lamp. The right wall. Okay, the right wall. I can draw, I don't know, bookshelf or something. Now you can look at this in 3D. You can still draw and paint on the same wall, similar to Grease Pencil. Now you can switch to the camera mode, right? And you can take screenshot. I think the screenshot is really cool. And of course, you can always select which wall of your canvas, and you can play back the animations based on the camera. So this is like some of the features of mental canvas, and I think for 2D artists, they should really, I think they really like this kind of ways of working, and the fact that this is actually inside iPad, and you can move this using gesture. And of course, Blender can do that more or less. For example, let's start with a new scene. Actually, I tend to just delete everything. We start blank, and two things, right? We can imagine like a room. Start with a cube like this. Normally, okay, you want to edit this box, this canvas, right? So usually I go to edit mode. I think this is one way to work with your canvas, which is like for example, this is like a room, and you want to draw inside the room. You can definitely do that. Let's actually, okay, Shift A, create a Grease Pencil, blank, start drawing, and we can use the surface projection, and we can start drawing inside. The thing with Grease Pencil, if you're drawing inside, you tend to get this thick and then become smaller. It's easier and better actually if you draw from the outside. And I'll draw with the full strength of the brush. I wish this is the default 100% instead of the opacity. Now we can start drawing. And it's also, it tends to do this when you're drawing. It's kind of like drawing the stroke, and then it does this weird thing. I kind of think it shouldn't do that. because that's a little bit jarring. Maybe because it's we are working in 2D and 3D. Maybe we should switch to the 3D location. I want to show you something. Okay, for example, this is the default cube. I'm just gonna delete everything. Okay, let's start again with the default cube. This time I will go to edit mode, go to edge select, and then bevel. If we want to kind of use a camera to draw with our grease pencil, I'll create grease pencil first, and I'm gonna switch to draw mode. I'm gonna start drawing. If I start drawing on the surface, maybe a little bit of offset can help with the stroke. Yeah, I think this is probably better to have a little bit of offset. So instead of drawing directly on the surface, alright, so grease pencil compared to mental canvas. If you want to have like a museum, for example, the best way maybe is to start with a cube, and then you go to edit mode using tab, switch to points, right click, merge vertices at center, and you go to the top view and you start drawing your floor plan. And then you can select all and then tap E and extrude. Now you have like a kind of like a wall that you can paint on. Shift A, create grease pencil, and start to draw again on the surface with a bit of offset. Let's create like a gallery. We can use a little bit of reference, for example, like mask. Ancient mask is actually good source of inspirations. You can start drawing with 2D before you switch to 3D and sculpting. Let's use a cavity and start painting. I think, yeah, when you're doodling using grease pencil, sometimes the thickness and the brush is not always as obvious as something like a mental canvas. It's very easy here to switch to draw mode, and when you're drawing you can switch to different brush, like simpler brush that's you're probably more familiar with. If you're doing like 2D, like if you use Photoshop, grease pencil is actually kind of like a vector tool. So no matter where you zoom, each stroke is actually like a vector type of data. So anyway, let's continue just drawing something, maybe like a mask. Sometimes this type of mental drawing, you know, like you're drawing without any particular directions, but in a way you're kind of doing like a meditations. Again, I use Blender for meditation, like kind of like a therapy. It's a good and fun thing to do more than anything. So this wall, by the way, is thin, like a thin wall, it's better to have some kind of thickness using solidify and even thickness, and use a complex. It's actually really cool features and really highly recommended. I think if you want to draw kind of like an on the wall. So let's get back to grease pencil, draw mode. So it took me a while just to get my brain into 3D space inside Blender, but once you're into this mode, it's easy and fun. So let's and you're drawing 2D, right? So it's simpler for your brain, but you have a lot of freedom also when you draw 2D in 3D. It's totally freeing. That's why I think the reason people like to do graffiti on the street is because you have like this space and you have this huge canvas, and it's such a waste, you know, because most of the time the canvas out there is just for advertisement. But if you think about it, like if the wall is just canvas, like in 3D, you can practically do anything. So again, it's doing this weird thing when it's drawn something thick and it's become smaller. It's not a bug, it's just like maybe it doesn't like, maybe there's like an overlapping of surface. Because it's trying to project this grease pencil on top of this. I think a better way, I want to show you. Sorry, I jump around when I'm talking about this because I'm trying to do something. I try to draw 2D on 3D, and it's just so many things you can do here. For example, okay, this is a camera. Before I even jump to the camera, there's this tool that's allowing you to draw something. Just draw another canvas that you can paint on. It's a bit crazy. If you're doing like a comics in the 3D space, it's gonna be like this. It's pretty insane what you can do. I'm drawing more wall to do my drawing. Let's yeah, okay. But okay, let's get to here. I want to show you that you can actually select your camera and you can enable snapping, and you can snap to the face. And you can align the rotations to the snapping target. So this is a snapping. There's actually a hotkey as well for this, but it's just a little bit too crazy. I'm just enabling the snapping. And after I do that, I grab an object and I just snap it. In this case, I'm snapping the camera, okay? And let's turn off the snapping for now. We have this camera, and now I can switch to the camera mode. So we are inside the camera. Camera is a little bit tilted, disoriented. I will also orient this camera. I'm trying to orient this camera and move it using a local mode. Okay, I think it's easier this way. Okay. With our camera now pointing exactly on the wall, we can actually paint on this alignment. So I think this is good for 2D artists. This gives you some kind of you feel more secure if you're inside a camera and it's aligned to the wall and you start drawing and painting this way. So select grease pencil once again, go to draw mode. We're gonna project it on the surface with a little bit of offset. Okay, now it's much better actually, because it's aligned to the camera. And you can draw any kind of abstract looking drawing. Remember when I told you that grease pencil is also like when you're drawing strokes, this is actually like a animation keyframe. Yeah, you can actually have like animated canvas. All right, so there's a lot of things there, a lot of things to digest. And so far I'm only using a single grease pencil object. I should have used like a multiple grease pencil object to make things more sane. Let me hide that. I could start again. Okay, we have blank canvas 3D wall. We have camera as well already set up. Let's save this as graffiti. And let's Shift A, create a grease pencil object, blank. Now we are free to draw anywhere. We can draw here. Grease pencil selected, object. Let's draw. Okay, I'm holding this orientation. Wow, okay. On this wall, I'm drawing something completely abstract because I feel like doing so at the moment. So this is inside the canvas mode. Maybe I want to have a bit of freedom. I want to draw across the wall. I can actually do that. It's actually a really cool way to paint and draw. Here I want to draw some kind of mask. This is my kind of like my graffiti space without actually drawing graffiti on the street. I have a lot of freedom. Let's draw like yeah, I don't like it when grease pencil do that. Maybe we are too close to the canvas. You can even draw comics using grease pencil. I should focus on the art more, like rather than just talking about the tool all the time. In fact, that's actually a good point. It's a very good point. Because if you talk about the tool all the time, I don't know, might be okay. The tool, the medium is the the message. It's true sometimes. So far I talk about drawing 2D style in 3D, and I don't have VR tools, but I think VR is also really powerful. If I have VR tool, I want to be able to kind of move around and draw things in 3D, in actual 3D. Although I think human brain still prefer like painting and drawing in 2D, like drawing on the wall. But if you start to think of VR drawing, you can kind of draw like dancing. It's very different mindset. But if you are like using grease pencil, it's you can think like 3D, like 2D in 3D. Right. So plenty of canvas. I think this mode is actually really cool. You're really projecting things in 3D, but it's actually 2D. Or you're drawing in 2D, but it's actually 3D. Sorry. So if you have like a room, unlimited room like this, and you give it to someone mental, someone a little bit crazy, I think they might start drawing this way. You might know an artist like Yayoi Kusama. She likes to draw dots inside a room, kind of like a obsession. She always say that she's also a little bit crazy, and which is interesting. A little bit insane, a little bit genius. Let's draw like a mask. Starting to feel heavy on the grease pencil, but again, okay, this grease pencil is a single object. Grease pencil have some cool features like the noise. Yeah, now your drawing's alive. Done this a couple of times. It's okay, I like to do it again. This grease pencil, of course, you can change the color very quickly. In this case, I have this black color. Okay, so it's a different one. You can just change the color. So each grease pencil object have different material, and you can quickly change the color because it's like a vector art. So there's crazy gravity, but you don't need permission for this because it's virtual. But now imagine if you have like a real room and you do like a quick scanning, and then you bring it into Blender and you start painting, and then you project it as like AR to the real world. That's gonna be really cool. Okay, now we can switch to our camera. With the camera selected, we can turn on auto keying and move our camera. Oops, before we move, we need to enable camera to view. Move our camera a little bit so we have keyframe there, and then we duplicate the keyframe so it's gonna stay there for a while. We can move to a different spot. It's gonna create a new keyframe and transition is gonna happen. So it's we need to do it outside of the camera actually, otherwise it's a little bit crazy. So we have camera. First of all, we need to have a camera position. Oops, okay, anyway, I'm gonna stop talking and stop this because there's a bell. Okay, see you later.